Malaysia. Jesus Christ. யாதான் இந்த சைடில் உள்ளது எப்பயுமே உழுவுது. Hi everyone and welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video and I hope you guys stay tuned until the end. My name is Esther Vincent, also known as LiaMia on social media. Do follow me over there. We'll love to catch you guys up. How is everyone doing? How is everything going on from your end? Well, I hope whatever that you guys are doing, it's going on great. It's going on good. Have you guys catched my previous video? This video that I uploaded last week, it is a crime video, a pretty sad one, but a brutal crime that actually took place in Malaysia. It was the crime of Nur Suzaili Mokhtar, a beautiful young woman that was brutally raped, sodomized, and murdered. If you guys have not catched that video, do give it a view. At the end of this video, the card will pop up. You guys can click on it, or at the bottom of this video under the description box, I will list down the link as well. Thank you. Right. As for today, I've got a mysterious story. Well, is there ghosts involved? Yes, there are. Well, what's a mysterious story without some intervention from our supernatural friends? Isn't it? So yes, this story is sort of a mysterious story but has ghosts involved in it as well. Today I am going to be talking to you guys about the very notorious Pudu Prison of Malaysia. Pudu Prison is, as per its name, a prison. Duh. The Pudu Prison is a very well-known landmark structure building in my country, Malaysia, for many different reasons. And I would say almost all and every Malaysians would say that they know Pudu Prison. But I do think that that's not going to be the case for the future Malaysian generation because of... I'll come to that later in the video. Pudu Prison, also known as Pudu Jail, was located in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's capital. It was built by the British colonial government back in the years between 1891 to 1895, and it was built on a old Chinese burial ground. Yeah, noise. What a great start for a mysterious location, isn't it? Yeah. They used the convicts as workforce and it took about 4 years to be completed. It got its name Pudu Prison because of the area that it was in, because the area's name was Pudu, hence Pudu Prison. Now, this Pudu Prison, it just had a bad omen or a bad luck or something that just a few months after starting its operation, in the month of August 1895, it was struck by a very bad cholera epidemic. Am I saying that right? Okay, I just googled the pronunciation, so it's cholera. So yes, just a few months after starting its operation, the prison was struck by a very bad cholera epidemic, and it killed hundreds and hundreds of prisoners in Pudu Prison. Later, the British government did some sort of a digging to see why this epidemic is just killing so many prisoners. So they did find out that the problem was from the prison's water system, because the prison's water system was only relied on a very old, ancient well from the Chinese burial ground. The same ground which has hundreds and hundreds of bodies buried. So they are taking that water and supplying it to the prisoners. And they did examine the water. The water had numerous hundreds of deadly viruses and bacteria. But the British authority did not fix the issue until 1898. The problem started about 1895, but it took them a couple of years to fix the water problem issue. Anywho's, during World War II, the Japanese forces incarcerated many Allied prisoners of war there, and later on when British took over, they also incarcerated many Japanese and other prisoners in Pudu Prison as well. The Pudu prison itself has a very brutal, very dark, inhumane, unspeakable incidents that has taken place all over its surrounding. The Pudu prison is one of the prisons in all of Malaysia that housed men and women with short sentences. It was a self-sufficient prison because it had a large garden which produced vegetable and food for all the inmates annually. Well, that's something nice, isn't it? Soon after, the Pudu prison started housing much more serious criminals like drug offenders, and it became a location to administer corporal punishment, which is caning, on the buttocks where they cane you. And it also became the location for execution of prisoners by hanging. Some of Pudu prison's very famous inmates are Mona Fendi, the pop star turned killer. Well, who in Malaysia doesn't know Mona Fendi? That's another video. It also housed Botak Chin, Barlow, and Chambers, two Australian citizens who were inmates in Pudu jail for drug trafficking. Jimmy Chua, a former Singaporean police officer turned criminal who later on in the same particular prison hold two of the prison's doctors. They are the doctors that would actually do annual checkups. I don't know whether it's annual or weekly. But yeah, Jimmy Chua, this guy, hold two of the prison's doctors as hostages. And this hostage situation, it went on for about 6 days. And thank God the doctors were saved safely. All these criminals were later on executed. In 1984, a prisoner used some 2,000 liters of paint and created a huge mural along the walls of the prison. It was measured to be somewhere about 860 feet by 14 feet. It was mentioned in the Guinness Book of Records at that time to be the longest mural in the world. Now, that's something good, right? Something nice about the place. After all its bad reportings, I would say two nice things that I could find out was the vegetable garden, their own sufficient vegetable garden, and this beautiful mural all along the wall that was even featured in Guinness Book of Records. Some nice things. Now, coming to its spooky mystery part. Thinking about it, it's more towards the spooky side than the mystery side. So yeah, I think it's just spooky parts. Yeah. So, the Pudu prison, it has seen its fair amount of bad people, gruesome incidents, and very, very unspeakable things happened around the whole prison. So, its cells and rooms and walls, all of it is completely surrounded or, indulged by this very creepy, spooky vibes. People say that it just gives a very eerie feeling when you enter into the prison's gates. It's just very heavy once when you enter into the prison. And when you come out, you can clearly feel like something had been lifted off you. Quote, "We would shout out aloud that we are merely trying to make a living here and tell whatever that's out there to just leave us alone," says Haji Aziz Haji Idris, a former Pudu prison police officer. Now I am going to go into some of the incidents experienced by this former prison officer when he was still working in Pudu prison. Once he was young. Once I was 20 years old. Remember that song? Yeah, okay, back to the story. I don't know why when I say once he was young, it just bring back that song. Once I was 7 years. No, once I was 7 years old. Yeah, all right, back to the story. So once Haji Aziz was a young officer and he was working in one of the guard towers in Pudu prison with another officer. It was somewhere after midnight, and he was, just doing his job when he sees a silhouette of a man sort of like walking in the alleyway. It was so dark he couldn't see, but he could just see a dark silhouette, and that man was walking and approaching him. The prison officers had been trained to knock their rifles on the floor as a sign of acknowledgement, or just to say hi. So that is exactly what Haji Aziz did. He knocked his rifle on the floor and shouted, "Is everything all right, sir?" to that silhouette. But that figure, the silhouette of a man, stopped its approach but lifted one of its hands up and was just staring straight to Haji Aziz. Slightly creeped out about this, Aziz was just looking back at the figure when the figure just disappeared right in front of his eyes. He also mentioned this one particular bunker in the warden's dormitory that every officer, or anyone for the matter, would try to avoid at all cost. That is because anyone who had slept on that bunk always feels an unseen presence heavily pressing down on their chest. And when you wake up, there's basically nothing around. Abu Bakr. Now, this is another prison officer, and he also re-encountered this very, very weird phenomenon where a ball in the size of a football engulfed by fire would suddenly appear out of nowhere, and it would be rolling around the prison. Wow, a ball of fire rolling around. It's giving me the Ghost Rider, Nicolas Cage. Yeah, it's sort of giving me the Ghost Rider vibes, all fiery and looking so cool. But no, I don't think so. This is cool. I don't think so. I'll be very thrilled to see a ball of fire rolling around. No, it's not cool. No, Esther. So this ball of fire would appear out of nowhere, and it would be rolling around the prison, and if anyone tries to catch up with it, somehow it will roll its way out of sight. Now, more to a scarier story where they re-encounter a apparition of a woman that keeps on appearing around the prison. The officers believe that it was the ghost of a woman that was hanged in the prison. It was said that she was a prisoner in Pudu Prison, and it was believed that she had tried to kill herself by slitting her throat, but was saved. And she was not fully recovered, meaning the wounds on her neck was not fully recovered, but the date of her execution was given. So she was brought to the execution chamber and was hanged to death. But due to the wounds on her neck, which are not fully healed, while hanging, her head completely ripped off at the neck from her body, and her head just rolled to the ground. And it was a gruesome sight. So the prisoners and the officers believe that her spirit still lurks around in the prison. One of the officer goes on to tell this other story where he was working in the D block where the death row is located, and right above the execution chamber there is this huge anchor stone is located. This officer was doing his, I think, checkup rounding, so he was walking around that block when out of the corner of his eyes he saw what seemed to be like a figure of a woman sitting on top of the anchor stone. Quote, Malays believe that a ghost's feet do not touch the ground, so I did the same thing. I bent down to check whether the feet of that woman is touching the ground, and that's when I saw the woman's figure disappearing right in front of my eyes. End quote, says the officer. Once there was this police officer who was doing certain interviews with the prisoners, and it was getting pretty late at night. And despite it being late, he just wanted to, interview just one more prisoner. So what he did, he decided to, interview one more guy, and he goes down and to get the prisoner. So before getting the prisoner, he needs to fill up some form, and he was just like filling up the form, and while filling up the form, he sort of saw at the side there was a figure that was just like in the dark and sitting in a squatting position. So he thought that this was another prisoner, so he goes near to take a closer look. That's when he realizes that it's not a prisoner, it was a woman, and she was basically headless, and blood was gushing and flowing out from her neck to her chest. Seeing this, he got so freaked out that he ran on the stairs to the top floor until he saw other officers. When it's late night, don't do one more extra interview. Just finish it off and continue tomorrow. Like, you see like a figure in the dark and you want to go and check out who is that? No, don't do that. Some spooky stuff. You know, researching for this story, I read so many articles and there were just so many stories. And I was thinking to myself, if I was ever offered a job in a prison, not just Pudu prison, any prison for the matter, and no matter how good the pay is, I don't think so. I'm gonna accept the offer. No. Prisons, I feel generally they just come with so many gruesome backstories that no, thank you. No, I don't want. So those were some of the creepy incidents, scary stories that had taken place in Pudu prison. In 1996, after about 101 years of operation, the Pudu prison was officially closed and all of its inmates were moved to other prison. It was used as a museum for some period of time in 1997. In 2009, it was used as a holding cell for prisoners before they were produced in court. In June of 2009, the government finally decided to demolish some of its complex. The hanging cell and the prison hospital were some of the first buildings to be demolished later that year. In 2010, the eastern wall of the Pudu prison was demolished for some road widening projects. And finally, by the end of 2012, December 2012, almost all of Pudu prison had been completely demolished except for its entryway gate. When I say gate, it's not just a gate, it's a wall. So the entryway wall of Pudu prison still remains untouched. Conservationists and general public petitioned for this particular wall to not to be taken down because it was such a huge landmark. The reason why the whole prison was even demolished is because it is like in the heart of the city. Kuala Lumpur is our capital, and the place where the prison was right now is like a city. It's basically full of buildings and shopping malls, and it's like such a tourist destination that the prison was not in a strategic location. So it's been torn down. Now the wall and the gate still remains after being petitioned by many people in Malaysia. With all the stories and history and memories of the officers and prisoners, you know, all this had happened, but now only the wall and its gate remains. And if any of you guys are in Kuala Lumpur, Pudu, you guys can see the prison's wall still standing, white in color, and at the back where the whole building and other facilities were, it's no longer available. So that, you guys, is the mysterious, spooky, scary, and history story about Malaysia's Pudu prison. With all that said and done, we had definitely come to the end of today's video. And if you guys had stayed tuned until this very moment, I thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, as per always. I would really appreciate if you guys could give me a thumbs up on this video and do catch my other videos as well. Thank you. I will see you guys next time on another video. It can be a spooky story, it can be a crime, it can be a mystery story. Let's see what comes into my mind. Until then, stay safe wherever you are, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!